Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm glad to see that we're back here again. I have really enjoyed these opportunities to chat with some of our great folks, both mission partners and participants, and people doing a variety of things with us. And today is going to be very unique because you're going to hear from some creators of music that have actually contributed to our Global Missions Project library for very specific purposes. And we're going to talk to them about it, a little bit about that right now. And I'm going to bring them on right now, and I'm going to introduce you to you quickly as I bring them on. This is Billy Bob Dempsey, and Billy Bob is a trombone player and is a minister of music. And he's going to tell us a little bit about that in just a minute. And then this is Laird Holling, and Laird is an incredible jazz musician, polished musician in every way, but also a great arranger. And then this is Brad Henderson. And so we're glad to have all of them today. If you look at our ad on Facebook, you saw that John Cormack was going to be with us today, but he had an emergency call to play for a funeral at his church today and is not able to be with us on this interview, but we'll have a good time with these guys. So Billy Bob and Brad and Laird, hi, how you doing, guys?
Hey. Doing great.
Good to see all of you. And I want to jump right in because since we've got three people with us today, I don't want to lose any time or waste any time. I want to have a chance to get right into hearing from these guys. Now, Billy Bob, where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Smith, Arkansas.
Okay.
Yep.
And what about now?
I live in Tyler, Texas. Been here 18 years and have served Green Acres Baptist Church for the last 3.
Awesome. Brad, how about you?
Originally from Fort Gibson, Oklahoma, where I still live. I work at First Baptist Church, Tulsa.
Awesome. And Laird, how about you?
Well, I'm from Portland, Oregon. I'm still in Portland, Oregon. I've always been here.
I know that feeling. I'm from Jacksonville, Florida originally, which is neither here nor there, but I really thought I would be there for my entire life. I had no idea. Sometimes God has other plans, doesn't he? And so here I am in Nashville, Tennessee, and been here for about almost 19 years now. But anyway, guys, I want to just kind of get some input from you individually all through the thing, but if anybody wants to jump in, that's okay too. All of you obviously are believers. You're serving in ministry in your churches. You've been active there for a number of years in the church, in church ministry. And so I want to know this a little bit. First of all, at some point in time in your life, obviously you came to Christ. You met Jesus. You found out who he was and who he wants to be in your life. Give me a little bit of your just quick background testimony, Billy Bob.
Well, I was a 10th grade band kid, and my dear friend Tommy Huff, who was a tuba player and still my best friend in this world, he invited me to church, and I went on this retreat weekend, and the gospel was shared. And December 5th, 1975, I gave my heart to Jesus Christ, and I've been trying to serve him ever since.
I love it. How about you, Brad?
My grandma was the church pianist of our small little town, and a very godly lady. And I think I was 7 or 8 years old, and I stayed at their house a lot, especially during the summers. And she sensed that I was ready to commit my life to Christ, and she did not miss the opportunity. We kneeled down at the couch in her living room, and she led me to the Lord. So
that's awesome. Laird, how about you?
Well, it's my sister that introduced me to Jesus when I was in junior high, and we started going to a little church up the street, an evangelical church in the neighborhood. But it was really in college when I really got connected with churches. I had some friends at the community college I was going to. They said, "Hey, we're putting together a big band at our church. Come play." And I said, "You got to be kidding. There's no big bands at churches." And I went and played, and I've been doing this ever since. I ended up directing the orchestra there, and then I went into full-time instrumental ministry.
I love that. I love the uniqueness of the stories. Isn't it awesome how God uses what he does choose to use to introduce us to him and to draw us to him. I just love it. I love to hear testimonies every single time. Well, now all three of you guys are obviously musicians because we're talking about music creation. When did you start studying music, Laird?
Well, I started on clarinet when I was 9 years old, and then I picked up saxophone in junior high and started learning flute in high school. And I went to jazz camp. I think I was a junior in high school, and I passed their theory test, so they threw me into this arranging class, and I wrote my first arrangement, and I had no idea what I was doing. And when they played it, it sounded like something that John Cage would have written or something, because I had the transpositions all messed up, and it was just awful. But I didn't give up, and I kept writing, and I wrote some things for my high school band. And then when I got to college, I went ahead and majored in composition and just kept writing.
Tell me again what age you were when you wrote your first chart.
I was probably a junior in high school, so maybe 16 or so. 17.
Okay, so you were already emulating John Cage then. Now I realize that a lot of our listeners don't know who John Cage is, maybe they do. But if you don't know who he is, look up John Cage, and you'll see what Laird was talking about. Brad, how about you, buddy?
I started in fifth grade band. Carl Redwine was my band director. Started on trombone, and my cousin had a baritone, not a euphonium, a baritone. So I learned the fingerings on baritone. Played later in college, and my family all plays stuff. So my dad played mandolin, so I had string stuff laying around. So I picked up guitar and bass along the way. So.
Well, that's awesome. And obviously you're an incredible keyboard player as well, because you've traveled with us doing that also.
It's fun. I like playing keyboard. It's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Billy Bob, how about you?
Well, I started band 7th grade on a school trombone. And actually the horn you see behind me is the one I got 2 years later in 9th grade. I've been trying to learn how to play it ever since. So I'm not like Laird. I don't have 4 or 5 different instruments I can play. But anyway, I've been trying to do that. And I did my first arrangement as a junior in high school as well, Laird. But and I studied music in college and then got into arranging later. And we'll talk about that, I guess, here in a little bit.
Well, let me say this to all of our listeners here today, or those that follow up with us later, that these three gentlemen are all very, very talented music creators, arrangers, music arrangers. And it has been my privilege and honor to travel with groups that are playing the music that these guys have created. And for any of you who have not had the opportunity to play some of their wonderful arrangements, perhaps one day you will. But I'm just saying that the one reason I chose these three guys today, and actually all 4 of them, that is because of what they have given to the Lord is not only of themselves, but it's God's quality that He has built into these men. So I'm very, very thankful for that. Well, guys, each of you have contributed some specific things for specific purposes to GMP. Let me ask you this, Billy Bob. Now, how many of GMP projects have you been on?
I've done 2.
You've done 2. Does that include
national projects?
Does that include Centurymen?
No, that would be 3.
Yeah, I'm glad to illuminate that for you. So that's good. And that's good. And Laird, you've been on a few projects, yes?
I've been on 3 projects overseas, and then I've done a couple recording sessions, and we did a fundraiser thingy up in Seattle too. So I guess that's 6 projects total.
No, and all of those things, even the domestic things that we've done, have been certainly qualified because we are so thankful that God opens the doors for Global Missions Project to be connected with so many different ministries. How about you, Brad?
I don't know, 11 or 12, maybe.
Multiple.
More than one. How's that?
Yeah, more than 2 or 3, and and that's great. Now, when you guys have written for some specific projects, I'd like to know some of the things that you were requested to do, because I know that there's a couple of unique stories here. And Billy Bob, anything in particular that we've asked you to do? I think primarily you've just been sharing your charts with us, and but there was this one other time, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was a gospel choir thing in Poland that I actually kind of orchestrated an arrangement I think that Corey Butler had done. for
Well,
the group, or he had done the
Your
work.
fault?
Do what?
That chart is your fault? God, that was hard. That's so hard.
well, Corey Butler's the one that made it hard. I can tell you that.
Yeah,
I just couldn't.
yeah. It's, but it's fun.
Oh yeah.
It's a
It is
fun
fun.
chart, but
It is fun. And what was this? What was the song?
Go tell them.
it on the mountain.
It was Go Tell It on the Mountain. And it was
Yeah.
a great feel. There's no way for me to go into a description to all of our listeners about exactly what all those meter things were that were going on. But let me just say this: we rehearsed it a lot. And you know what? It wasn't a playing the notes thing. It was playing the rhythms. They were just really interesting. And so, would you say that was probably your most unique contribution to our projects?
No, I think probably my arrangement of the spiritual that I did for my dad. Guide my feet, Lord. I know it gets used on most projects, and boy, that's just it's a thrill because the Lord is using that all over the world whenever GMP goes somewhere, and I just pray that it's guiding the feet of the folks that are playing, and the Lord's using it to bring others to Him. That's pretty awesome.
And you know what? When we do play that on our projects, I always introduce it by saying, shouldn't our first prayer in the morning be asking God to guide our feet for the day, that we would be following along His plan. And that's a fun arrangement to do. Laird, how about you?
Oh boy, where do I start? The specific things for projects. The first one was when we went to Finland, and we were supposed to do a Lutheran service in a castle, and they had a medieval castle with a Lutheran service with a big band, and they had Finnish hymns that none of us had ever heard before, and I had to try to turn those into something a big band could play.
Wow.
That was the first one, and that was a lot of fun. But I've done other things like when you went to Brazil, the congregation down there sings Gloria, Gloria, Alleluia. And so
we call it, what do we call it here? We call it Battle Hymn of the Republic, right?
Battle Hymn of the Republic.
Yeah.
I got to see a video of that, you guys playing that in Brazil, and the congregation was just having a great time singing along with that. And of course, it's warp factor 12, I think, for the band. It just really clips along. It's really fun to play.
400, yeah.
Well, let me say, Laird's contributions go very, very deep with the Metro Big Band with so many things. Matter of fact, we just got a J.W. Yeager, one of our drummers, just signed in, and he said, "Thanks, Laird, for the drum solo." He's talking about Love Divine.
Yeah, great card.
So that's so much fun. And by the way, we've got a number of our people that are signed on right now. One of them, a unique one to me, is Jediel Suarez, who lives in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And Brad, you remember him?
I do.
Yeah, and he's been on several of our interviews before, and a number of other great folks have signed on too. And Billy Bob, just for you, Tony Garrett just signed on to say hi too. Yeah, Brad, tell me about you've done so much for us too.
I think Poland was the big one, right?
Probably, yeah, the biggest.
I got to do some of the fun stuff. Scotland, we did a little medley of Scottish tunes that, it was just some of their tunes put in more of a jazz flair, and it was fun. I did a few things for Brazil, but we didn't use them because that's a long story. Anyway, I think the Polish thing was the big deal, though, because it was a gospel choir, some Andre Crouch tunes, some other stuff, but it was stuff that I was very familiar with, and I was stunned to hear those kids sing. And
you know what? I just for some reason I was doing something else on YouTube yesterday, and I pulled up Gospel Joy Choir. By the way, for all of our listeners, look up Gospel Joy Poland, and you'll find some of the recording of the project that Brad was one of the primary contributors on. And Billy Bob, the video is probably on there on your chart as well.
Joyful.
Joyful is for sure. And, but also the Go Tell It as well. And I'm telling you, I was watching I was watching Joyful Joyful is the one that I was watching, and little Julia Brad singing the solo. And I'm telling you what, it just electrified me to watch that yesterday, because it was in the last concert in that beautiful theater that we were in, and just to hear everything come together, it was amazing. And Brad's being a little bit humble on that Poland project, because not only did he contribute some significant number of charts for that, as did Billy Bob and John Cormack as well. But Brad did all the follow-up work and ultimately edited and mixed all of the audio recording for that also. And that choir is just so exciting. They are just electrifying. So any of you that are watching us today, look up Gospel Joy Poland, but just put Poland in there. You'll get the right choir, and you'll see some of those great arrangements that were sung and played there on that project.
So can I tell a really 30-second story real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So one of the songs we did was called Take Me Back, an old Andre Crouch song off Andre Crouch and the Disciples live from Carnegie Hall, which was the first album I ever listened to as a junior high kid that said, hey, this is another style of music that can be used in worship. And I think, if my memory's right, that was one of the first songs on the album. And I got to arrange that. And we're doing this in Poland in this gymnasium. And it just dawns on me. So I don't know why it didn't ever click as I was working on it. But if we start to sing this, it's like, this is the song that started the whole thing. This
Awesome.
is the song that I heard that I went, this is what I want to do. And 50 years later, you can see, almost 50 years later, you can see step after God's guiding hand, guiding feet, thank you, where it's just like, it comes full circle. So it was a really just a great moment. I couldn't see the sheet music for crying, but anyway.
I hear you. Matter of fact, yesterday when I listened to it, my battery was so charged to hear that chart that Billy Bob did with Joyful Joyful, and I was just excited with it. I was so up. So I wanted my wife to hear it, and so I put that on the video for her. And at the end of it, that time I was weeping, because the memories were so strong, and of seeing the joy that came through all of that. So I'm so thankful. Tell me, guys, what does it feel like to hear your music played? What is it like to hear your music played, and hopefully played well? And when you know that it's being used for the cause of Christ. Laird, any comments on that?
Well, every time you guys go on a trip afterwards, I go on YouTube and try to hunt down to see what you guys played, and it's amazing to me to watch the reactions to people, like when you were in Volgograd and did Moscow Nights and people started singing along, or watching congregations in Hungary singing my little arrangement of faith.
Great Thy Faithfulness.
Yeah, Grace Thy Faithfulness, and they're singing in Hungarian, and I never thought I'd ever hear that. It's just all of those kind of experiences. When I see the band connecting with the audience like that, it's just really rewarding to see.
Well, and as you well know, it's not just the band connecting; it's the Spirit of the Lord coming through it and everything. Bob, what about you?
Well, I mean, it's humbling. It really is. I mean, I didn't see any of this coming ever. I just, I went on that first project. That's where I met Laird in 2009 in Finland. And I wanted to establish a group here in Tyler, which we ultimately did. Pretty good band. And so I thought, well, I'll write for them. And some of that music has gone on around the world. And it's amazing. It's really humbling. And I'm glad that the Lord can take something like that, meager though it might be, and use it in wonderful ways. So it's just, I don't know, it's cool, it's humbling, and it's awesome all at the same time.
All three of these men have written stuff that we played with, primarily with Metro Big Band on our projects, and we use at least one or two of their charts on every single Metro Big Band project. And I was just looking and realizing that Metro Big Band has been to, I think, 25 countries now. And you're talking about being around the world. I mean, that's pretty incredible. Brad, you want to comment on that feeling for you too?
It's the greatest thing ever, simply because it sounds so much better than my computer.
For real.
Wow, this really worked. What a deal. For me, I think it's the really cool thought that God gifted me to do something, and I get to do what He skilled me to do and called me to do, and then it's getting used for His glory. It's like He's created all these opportunities for Him. It's not for me to get credit or anything else or anyone else. It's for God's worship to be returned to Him. And when I get to be a part of that, that's just the best thing ever. That's just,
Let me ask you something that I know how I feel about this personally, because of the trek that God's taken me on over my life and everything. Do y'all feel at all like I never dreamed I was going to have an opportunity to do something like this? Do you ever have that feeling?
I traveled and up with people for about 6 or 7 years as a young man, and the musical director was a guy named Herbie Allen, who's recently passed away. And at one spot in that early touring, we were in a symphony situation, and someone said, "Herbie, what a wonderful chart you did." And he goes, "This young man right here could do this." And it's just one of those things where I always kind of had it in my mind that I could, but just and thank you, God was given the opportunity to try it.
That's great. That's great. Some of our listeners are going to want to know this question. This is very ultra, not specifically spiritual in any way, but I think it's curious to see how things grow and change over time. When you first started trying to create arrangements, about how long would it take you to do one in the early days? Each of you, Billy Bob.
Weeks. Just just experimenting. The first chart I did was I can't remember. Anyway, it took a long time just to try to figure it out.
It was so long ago when you did it, you can't remember, and that's okay. Seriously, Laird, do you have that kind of same memory?
Well, I'm still really super slow at writing arrangements, and I'm working on one for the Sweden project next summer. That I've been working on this thing for months, and I haven't gotten very far, and I got a long way to go. So I tend to be pretty slow. I don't crank them out that fast.
Well, now, part of that too for you and for all three of you guys is you got full-time jobs, and so you can't be kind of focused on it all the time. Brad, in the early days, it was kind of the same story for you?
Well, if you've never done the procedure, for people who are listening, you would take a pencil and you would write this on a piece of paper, and then you would take that piece of paper and write out the parts, and then you would hope that you had created something that sounded good, or like I did this for a summer show a lot, and then they would come back and this has all been written out. Would you mind taking that up a whole step?
Mm. Pre-computer days. No pressing a button or anything to get it done.
It's always been a little bit tedious for me. I won't go into detail because we're about out of time here. But dare I say that you're faster than you used to be? And I know that's
and the process brings me joy. It's fun. It's creative. It's being creative. It's using the gift that God has given me, and so it is fun. The creative process is as much as hearing it later.
I think for me, I'm so thankful because of years of doing this that when I'm putting the notes down on paper, I already had a pretty good idea what it's going to sound like when it's finished, and that takes a lot of years and a lot of practice. Well, guys, I hate to say it, but we're out of time. But I do want to give each of you about 30 seconds to say anything that you would like to say to participants or potential participants with GMP. Brad, anything?
Yeah, if you've never gone on a trip, you need to go. It is a life-changing experience. It's addictive, I must say. But what a way to use the gifts that God's given you for His glory,
What about you, Laird?
Well, very similar. I never thought I would ever go on a mission trip because I don't know how to build anything. But when I found out I could use my music in missions, that was life-changing for me. And I wish I could go on more trips, but if I can't go, I send music.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Billy Bob, any words?
I echo the same thing that these guys say. I mean, go if you can. It's a wonderful experience. But I also like to say thank you to all of you who have gone and used our music for ministry. Your boots on the ground and the connections that you make with people when you're at a concert, that's where ministry takes place, and that's where the gospel takes place. So thank you for that. Keep working hard and keep going.
That's right. Well, hey, thank you so much, guys. I do want to mention to everybody who is listening and seeing this video that we have a survey on the Global Missions Project Facebook page. It's a link to it that you can get to the survey. It's a very, very brief survey. It's one of those where you just click a number 1 through 5 or something. And but we would value your input greatly regarding these interviews that we're doing on a weekly basis. We're planning ahead to continue to do them. But we need your input to tell us what you like about them or if you're enjoying them. And this survey is very, very easy to complete. So on the Global Missions Project Facebook page, please go to that link that gets you to the survey and take the survey to us. Guys, God bless you for being with us today. And God bless all of you who are listening to us today. And I do hope that these are informative and fun for you to hear. And to learn more about our wonderful, wonderful GMP contributors who contribute in so many ways, not only as our mission partners, but you as participants also. God bless you all today.